What is going on, Washington Commanders Nation? We are back with another video, and in today's video, I have a video that you don't want to miss. I'm giving you the insight to all the Washington Commanders players that you need to look out for in the draft. All right, these are must-watch tape on guys. The Washington Commanders, you could say, have interest in all these guys. These are all possibility for the Washington Commanders in all rounds of the draft. I have 5 of them. Now, there is more, but I have 5 of them that I think are the biggest targets for the Washington Commanders so far from what we know, okay, and the team's biggest needs. Now, before we get into the video, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Now let's go ahead and get into the video, and I do want to say that this isn't, these aren't in any order, okay? These are just players I am giving you information about that you need to watch if you're a Commanders fan, all right? Because they are, going to either be right there or drafted by the Washington Commanders. So we will start with edge rusher Donovan Izaraku. All right. Now, Izaraku is a guy that the Commanders like. Okay. I'm sure they went to the Senior Bowl, watched him a little bit. He is a very good player. All right. Now, he went to Florida State. Okay. And he is 21 years old. He is a dog. Okay. And he is 6'2". Let's see, 6'2", 247 pounds. He had 16.5 sacks last season, 3 forced fumbles. He gets you turnovers. All right, he gets you those sacks too. He is awesome. All right, and the Washington Commanders have interest in him. You better watch this guy at 29 because even the Commanders' Twitter page, and I know you have to take this with a grain of salt because it's on X, but the Commanders' Twitter page on X, or the Commanders' page on X, tweeted out Donovan Izaraku at 29. They basically said that is what we think is going to happen. Now, this isn't Adam Peters tweeting it out. It's a social media team. But, you need to know that the Commanders want this guy. You have to watch this guy. He could easily be selected at 29 for the Washington Commanders, or we move back to 42, 36, 33, whatever. We move back, and he could still be selected. So you have to watch him. Now, this next guy is an edge rusher as well. And we'll get to some of the other players, the other spots, but I wanted to start out with a few edge rushers. So Femi Oladejo, that's how you say it. I believe that's how you say it. He is the next guy that we have here, and the Commanders have met with him. They had a 30 here. I'll give you the whole article actually. So let me see. Okay, we're gonna get to my info about him in a second, but I'll give you the rundown. They had a 30-minute meeting with Femi Oladejo. They went to his pro day. They spent time to look at him. They spent time to watch his tape as well, and they have mutual interest in him. They both have interest in each other. Now I'll give you the whole rundown on this guy. This is, the most notes I have on a guy. 33.5-inch arm length. That is wide. That is big if you didn't know. 6'2", 261 pounds. Maybe a little bit short. Maybe a little bit on the shorter end. 6'2", but I don't think that's a big deal, and I think the Commanders, their staff doesn't look too far into that. He's versatile, drops into coverage every once in a while. He doesn't have elite measurables, but a guy that just fits, and especially fits in a Dan Quinn defense. Now, he's really long, he's strong, he doesn't have elite athleticism, I will say that, and I'm going to be honest, he's not very fast, but he is strong. He loves ball, and when he gets a beat on a guy, he's going to track that guy down, all right? But he's a great fit for the Commanders at edge, and I think the Commanders really like him. So Femi is definitely an eye. Like, you have to watch Femi Oladejo, okay? You have to keep your eye on him because he is a guy that the Commanders can easily select at 29. Easily. Or, same thing, like I said, they could trade back and select him, whatever. You have to watch this guy, all right? Because he's going to go in the top 35. I can almost guarantee you that. Now, if he falls, He might fall, but I don't see why unless he develops a major problem. The next guy you have to watch is Maxwell Hairston. Okay. And I will say that there is another cornerback, Trey Amos, out of Ole Miss, but I think the Commanders value Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky more than Trey Amos, and I think he'd be a second round pick for the Commanders. Now, he had two forced fumbles last season. Obviously, they're looking for the turnovers. They're looking for that. That's why they brought in Jonathan Jones as well. But we know that Jonathan Jones is more of a depth signing there. He had one interception last year, which is not very good, but he had two forced fumbles, and he's 6'1", 186 on the smaller side, pretty skinny, but I think you need to watch him. I think that the Commanders have him on the radar. I'm not going to lie to you. And this is a very good cornerback, very high respected, well respected guy. Now, I'll actually give you Trey Amos a rundown on him as well. 23 years old, whereas Maxwell Hairston's only 21. Trey Amos is 23, went to Ole Miss. He had 3 interceptions last year, 1 forced fumble. He is 6'1", so the same exact height as Maxwell Hairston, 190, 4 pounds heavier. And he is a pretty good player as well. The Commanders definitely have Trey Amos on the radar as well. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, I think that Hairston would be higher up on their list. I think that he has a better build. I know he didn't get as many interceptions last year, but you can't just go off interceptions in the research that you do. You have to watch tape on him, and you'll find out that he's a pretty good player. Now, the next guy that I wanted to talk about was Jaden Higgins, okay? And I've actually done a little bit of research on him, as I have for all of these guys. But he went to Iowa State. He's a big, big wide receiver. He's 22 years old, okay? Jaden Higgins is, he's a really good receiver. 6'4", 6'4" for a receiver, okay? You're getting, what is his name? The white guy on our team, I think he was number 89 last year. I forget his name. Bryson Tremaine? I don't know. But here, I'll actually find his name. Bryson Tremaine. Yeah, Bryson Tremaine. That's his name. Bryson Tremaine, 89 on the Commanders last year. He gives me vibes of Bryson Tremaine. He's definitely a lot better than Bryson, but they have the same size. He's 6'4", 215. He had 1,183 yards last season, 9 touchdowns, 13.6 on average, which is absolutely perfect. What you want to see out of guy, for sure. Jaden Higgins is definitely on the Commanders' radar. You could see him first, second, and depends on if we trade up and get an early third, you could see him early third. Not any later than that. You could see his price kind of go up, his value go up, and you could see him be drafted even in the second round. But this guy's definitely on the Commanders' radar. Like I said, all these players, you have to watch these guys. These are all players the Commanders have interest in and definitely could have potential in drafting. Now, the next guy I had on here was Trey Amos, which I already gave you his rundown. So we'll move on to defensive lineman Kenneth Grant. Now, Kenneth Grant is out of Michigan, so definitely a great school, but he's not a name that you would have really heard of if it weren't for me bringing you this. He's 21 years old, and he's very underrated. He flies under that radar. He had 3 sacks last season. He didn't have any turnovers, but he's 6'3", 339 pounds. I mean, he's great at stopping the run. He'll stand there and stop the run. He will stop Saquon Barkley, okay? He will stop him. He would just beef up the D-line, really, really add size to that D-line if the Commanders could bring him in. I think that this is a home run for the Commanders, especially in the 3rd round. Maybe even 4th round, he could fall. I think you would expect to see probably 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th round, but a defensive tackle out of Michigan, you can't go wrong with those type of guys. So I think Kenneth Grant is, a guy that really is valued high in this draft class. And he's going to stop the run. He's big. He can move around. He's going to stop the run. Now, I know that I went over, I've already given you 6 players that the Commanders could target. Even though the thumbnail says, or even though the title says 5 players that the Commanders have interest in. I'm going to give you guys another one just because I have it written on here and I have some things to say about him. Derek Harmon. Derek Harmon is kind of like Kenneth Grant. Derek Harmon is a defensive lineman and he went to Oregon. Now, I'm an Oregon fan myself, so I can say this guy is pretty dang good. And he's pretty big too, okay? He is huge. 6'5", 310 pounds. He had 5 sacks last year, 2 forced fumbles. So other than Kenneth Grant, he brings you the turnovers, the forced fumbles. He has 2 more sacks than Kenneth Grant too. 55 on the Ducks. He's going to stop the run as well. He's kind of a little bit faster though than Kenneth Grant. And he is just a great player. He's definitely on the radar too. Like after they get edge, maybe wide receiver, running back out of the way, they are going to target D linemen. We know that. They tried to do it in free agency. And I'm not saying they failed, but they tried to. And they're going to do it in the draft probably. We don't have, I don't think we have 7 picks in this draft, but if we trade back, we could get more. We've already made those big trades like the Laramie Tunsil trade, the Deebo Samuel trade. Like we made these big trades. And so we don't have as many draft picks, but if we trade back, we could get some draft picks out of that. So maybe we have some more, signings, some more drafting to do in the later rounds. But that still could not happen. But I think that you could see, the Commanders sign a bunch of defensive linemen, in the later rounds of this draft. That's why I gave you, even at the end, 2 D linemen that you need to watch out for. Now, I gave you more than the title said, but I just wanted to fill you guys in. Like, these are the guys the Commanders are looking after. These are the guys that the Commanders have interest in. You need to watch these guys. These are must-watch tape on guys if you want to be a Commanders, if you want to be inside on what the Commanders are going to do in this draft. These guys, I'll quickly give you a recap of who I said. Femi Oladejo, edge rusher. Donovan Izaraku, edge rusher. Maxwell Hairston, cornerback. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver. Trey Amos, cornerback. Kenneth Grant, defensive lineman. Derek Harmon, defensive lineman. Those are all the players you need for this year's draft and a few others. But I've given you what I have made and what I have written down. So with that, I'm going to hop off. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a comment down below what you think the Commanders are going to do in the draft, what you thought of this video. But for right now, that's all I got. Hail to the Washington Commanders. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Peace.